behind me. Just this button right there. Just
Oh, that's
hold
a
it.
button?
Yep, you just hold it. It doesn't look like a button.
Of course I did it wrong. I don't think I got it. All right.
Good evening, Mr. Broda. How are you this evening?
Doing well, thanks.
Great. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. And would you like to start, Councilmember Wink?
I'm Cheryl Wink, and I represent Englewood at Large.
Hi, Eric. I'm Linda Olson from District 2. Welcome.
Eric, my name's Dave Cuesta, District 4.
I'm Amy Martinez, at large.
I'm Rita Russell. I'm at large, and Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm on District 3.
So, good evening. Who would like to start? Do you want to just say a few words about yourself to us? I mean, we've read your application and your resume, so.
I guess what specific questions do you have?
Okay.
Let's start with the first one.
All right.
So one of the things, this is a fun one, what prompted you or motivated you to apply to Board and Commission at this point?
I was predominantly concerned at how the assets were being managed, and I was morally, I guess, engaged to want to know and make sure that the people who were protecting my own family had their retirement protected as well. So.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? So morally,
Yeah. So I've
something in particular.
Yeah. So I've worked on the institutional side of investments, and I know how the game is played on both sides of the table. And a lot of times, people who are responsible for assisting in managing assets and making decisions don't have technical expertise, and they can get taken advantage of. That's what concerned me. And I've been joking with my wife that I was going to apply for a long time, and then I just, out of the blue, cold called and talked a little bit more with a few folks about the pension board, and they said, we can't get anyone on any of these boards. No one wants to stay. It's not fun work. And
Appreciate you stepping up.
that's sort of how I got involved.
Really great. Councilmember Wink, would you like to go next? Or?
Certainly. So, thank you, Mr. Tom. So in your 2.5 years here, Mr. Broda, what are your favorite aspects of Englewood, and other than what you just mentioned, in terms of the pension board, what would you like to see change?
So my 9-year-old daughter and I, Dave's met her, but I bring her around with me everywhere. We actually are starting an urban farm together, and so entrepreneurship is extremely important to me, and I'd love to be a part of that in Englewood. I think that we have an extremely great area from a location standpoint. We just sort of need the right pieces to fall into place from a commerce standpoint. And I'm just excited to see that transition continue to happen, and with the downtown strip. But I like underdogs. I've always considered myself one, and I feel like Englewood is finally getting to score some points, and I want to see them actually win the game.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Martinez?
Great. Thank you for being here and applying. How would serving on this board or commission benefit you as a citizen, personally and professionally?
I think I alluded to just morally, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable doing, adding value in what I feel like I have a technical background in. Personally, just be nice to get more involved. I've sat on a board before. I'm kind of a straight talker, so if I deter to my Italian-Polish speak, I apologize if I'm breaking decorum. But there's a bunch of old white bald guys on the CFA board, and I always joke with them. I said, one of these days I'm going to leave and actually go, do some good on a board where people actually need help. And that's what I feel like I'm able to do on this board, and hopefully what I'm able to do. And then from a professional standpoint, I think it adds credibility that I'm appointed to a pension board. Just so you know, from a conflict of interest standpoint, there's my company margin. I would never ask or be in a position to want to manage the assets. So just so you know that. But I'm excited to give back in an area where I feel like I have a background and something that I'm passionate about. That's what I do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Barentine.
I appreciate the urban farm attitude. I just got some more chicks. We'll have to pony up with that stuff. So, and some bees and all of this stuff.
Wow.
So I'm all about that. I think that's really good that you're putting your daughter in that and do some of the entrepreneurship. It's a little bit different for what we're doing here because you came to us and said, I want to be on this board. It has come to my attention exactly what you said about several cities are going through this exact same thing, and some problems have arisen with some of the pensions, some of the way that's being managed. And it's not just us. I heard about this conversation in Aurora and Littleton, I think Centennial, some people were talking about it. And so I do share that concern, but I'm not quite sure how it came to you. If you think that there's anything in particular with us, or is it just kind of like what I'm hearing, that there's all of this other issue. And in stemming those kind of perceived, real or not, but maybe perceived issues that have been going on, not only maybe with ours, but with a lot of other these kind of boards, that how do you think you could, what would you bring to it to either flesh that out or be more comfortable with, or if there is an issue, kind of resolve it, what do you think you could bring to the board to do that?
So I'm going to take each of your questions in steps, and I'm not as ambitious to do the chicken, so I think you're a lot stronger woman than me. The bees, that'd be cool, and then you're always welcome to come check out our farm. We're total rookies, so we're learning as we go. To answer your second question or comment regarding do I have any specific concerns specifically relating to the firefighter pension board, I don't know what the underlying investments are. But I don't know if you read like Nassim Taleb. He wrote Anti-Fragile. He just came out with a new book called Skin in the Game. Mm-hmm. He's an outsider in our industry and really someone that I look to. But I was reading something that he had written in one of his release chapters last night about this institutional guy that used to sit on this big. He was a government worker, but there was a salesperson that was influencing him, and he essentially said that he would give the person a $2,000 bottle of wine to offload $100,000 of financial products that they couldn't sell anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And I know from working on the institutional side how to, for lack of better words, make the numbers look the way they need to look to convince people of things that they shouldn't be convinced of. And I have a high level of skepticism, and that's what I'm good at what I do from going through the CFA program. So I had the technical expertise to ask the hard questions and the personal courage from an intellectual standpoint to intellectually spar with the people the suits that come in and start trying to pitch products that may not fit to get this ratio back up to 100%, this funded ratio, hopefully, at some point.
He's not a yes guy, huh?
Not usually, no.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You have no idea how much I respect that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Questa.
Eric, I will echo the thanks. I do appreciate you volunteering for this position. There's been some difficult feelings, so thank you. I really like the introduction you had there in sticking up for those who defend us on a daily basis, which is certainly a selfless job itself. Beyond the fiduciary responsibility that goes along with that, are there particular benchmarks you would look for with the pension?
Well, the funded ratio has been, so I have, this is the last thing I could squabble together from the internet, but when I looked at the funded ratio as of, I don't know if this is done on a quarterly basis. This is concerning. I mean, we're not at 100%. I just did a quick back of the envelope cocktail napkin sketch. You're up 13.1% year to date, market value. I really want to know what the underlying assets are. I took a quick peek at the asset allocation. I saw there was some direct real estate exposure, or I want to know what that's in. I'm also curious about what the investment policy statement says around how the assets are managed, if people are taking an aggressive approach beyond asset liability matching and saying, well, and again, I apologize, I break decorum, but I'm just trying to be myself.
Please.
But if people are just trying to make up for lost time or take excessive risk to bring things back up to a funding ratio that's more appropriate, they could be taking on taxpayer risk by doing that if they get caught on the wrong side of that trade. So I guess those are just, I think it's more stream of consciousness. It's not really there's an area of investigation and process that I would go through, but just between us girls, just quickly, spewing out a few things. Those are the things that come to my, prefrontal cortex the fastest.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to thank you for applying. So did you just happen to be reading all of this stuff just in the last few weeks? Or, looking at our website and all of that, or?
I've been joking with my wife that I was going to apply for maybe 8 months, and I think the excuse that we always give ourselves is that we don't have access to two resources, and that's time and money. And I just said I can make both of them, and I can sit and when I was driving over, I saw the Inglewood Fire Department carry out a woman, and so that makes me feel good. And I hear gunshots in my neighborhood, and I know that there was a vacancy on the police pension board. I think those people are selfless in our community, and at a minimum, we need to make sure that all their time and their dedication doesn't go to waste.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. And did you check the website for the time that board meets? I know you said it was quarterly, and I know that it is quarterly.
For pension or for fire?
Firefighters.
I believe it is on a quarterly basis, and that's when they review asset performance. But I'd like to get, assuming I'm a point, I'd like to get up to speed a lot quicker before I sit down in the next quarter.
Okay, and I think it meets during the day at
3:30, it looks like.
4:30? So will that be a problem?
No. That's after market close. That wouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
Could I just ask one quick question? Why didn't you apply the last round, and what made you decide to apply kind of mid? How did you do the process to apply mid-term here?
I sense just the questions maybe you're like looking for a catalyst, or really it was a lot more serendipitous, and it wasn't as articulated or well thought out. It was literally talking to my wife and joking with her that I was concerned because I know, like I said, I know how the game gets played sometimes with city workers that think that they're reviewing things and understand things, or anybody. And it's just, that's how I see myself with clients, is sort of that.
You just called and
So I literally just cold called.
You didn't know that we had just gone through the process. You didn't know when it was. You just called, and then our city manager was smart to make sure that you got moved on. I just wanted to make sure. A lot of people just go, well, I missed it, and they just let it go. So I just thought that was ambitious. Go, okay, let's do it different. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. And you have probably about 3 minutes. Okay,
I have another question. So I've been
Sure.
looking at your resume here, which is, so tell me a little bit, are these all different jobs? Or are they part of the LLC that you formed, or these
No,
are all
those are
single different jobs?
Yeah, I've worked at a few different shops. So I've worked at a registered investment advisory firm right out of school. I got really lucky graduating in 2008 with a finance degree.
Oh, wait, it was not a good time
You're
to
right.
graduate either, was it?
No. So I went through the RIA, and then I did a couple intermediate stints to get before I got back into wealth management at U.S. Bank, and then I went through the CFA program. And I was going through the Chartered Financial Analyst program, which is considered the gold standard according to The Economist in finance. So I sat on the board, and there's only about 1,200 of us here in Colorado, and only about 100,000 in the world. And so I went through that. I was also going through an alternatives program. And once I had finished that up, then I had moved on to work as a valuation analyst. So at healthcare appraisers, we're helping to do major transactions for healthcare entities. So the hospital wanted to buy a physician practice unit. We'd go in and value the deal, and then we would end up presenting it to the C-level executives, the attorneys, and always my favorite, the physicians, who had the most interesting questions about why their practice wasn't valued more. So I did that. Then I worked as a product analyst at Transamerica. So I was a lead analyst on their introduction into ETFs, and then also worked predominantly on mutual funds before I got promoted to work in competitive analysis for one lady who had 30 years sell-side experience on the street in New York at Merrill in insurance, and she reported directly to the CFO. So we covered all products. It was just me and her. And it was a great experience, but there were certain aspects that weren't so great. My eyes started to bleed from looking at spreadsheets all day, and being in the office till 9 o'clock on a Friday, and I missed working with clients. So I went back, and there was a lot of other issues that happened, and I just realized that the only way that I could really add value is if I had a unique value proposition. So I run a retainer-only based planning firm. So I don't charge assets under management or commissions. So they have the lowest amount of conflicts of interest. And that's sort of where the industry is moving. And I just have a small concierge-like practice that I'm building with some of my past clients. So that's kind of a quick, that's probably what you wanted to start.
That's really helpful, and you're an entrepreneur in your own right then in doing this. So, great, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. And any closing remarks you want to leave us with?
I guess, as I told my wife, it's a little scary that you guys only allocate 15 minutes to pick someone, but I get that's the way it's structured, and that's the way you have to do it. But my outsider rebel personality wants to say that that's probably not a good rule, and that if you, I guess, at the risk of not getting appointed, I don't know why it's such short time.
Normally, we have, when we do it at the same time, there's a lot of openings, and so...
The scary part is that we can't force people who are qualified to take the positions. We can only take the people who apply, and I'm grateful you applied.
Absolutely.
You could have done it in 10, Eric.
You actually only allow 10 when you do it in a regular
Right,
time,
exactly.
so
You got an extra
you need
5.
Yeah. It's just kind of scary.
Do you understand the role of the board as an advisory board? But because you have this expertise, it would be incredibly helpful. But the staff who have financial background are the ones who are really the players in trying to move it forward then from what the group advises. But it's a good eye on it. And
Right, I understand that they're
They
not.
vote.
yeah.
Right, they're not actually managing the assets, but
They
I mean,
vote.
if you see something, that needs to be changed, that's what we're counting on, is people to
They still
have
vote.
varied perspectives. And
right.
Absolutely. So we will discuss this. Staff will get in touch with you.
Okay.
And I appreciate your time and coming to share with us. And
Sure.
thank you very much
Yeah.
for
We're
applying.
joking with your wife now. You're
Yeah.
Get her to apply.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
If the city manager and city attorney would like to join us.